Hello there, beautiful soul, and welcome. As you can see, today we're going to be talking about gift giving and receiving. And although I am recording and uploading this originally during the holiday season, happy holidays, by the way, I want you to know that this is a timeless message. So you can be listening and come back and listen again whenever gift giving or receiving is relevant for you and your life. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Danielle, hashtag damsel at These Enlightened Edits of damseldesigns.com. I am a spiritual advisor, psychic medium, quantum Sikhem, and shamanic energy healer, as well as energy artist and so much more. And in these chat and channel sessions, my guides, or in some cases some of you, present me with a topic and we have a stream of consciousness channeling about it. Because of my abilities and the vocal light codes in my voice, feel free to also get out a journal or the notes app on your phone or favorite device and do some stream of consciousness writing along with me, because you may be able to receive information of your own as you are participating in this channeling session. You can also participate in the chat portion by leaving me a comment or a question if you would like. So let's get started. Now, the topic of gift giving is, of course, very vast. Some people have gift giving as their love language. And as someone who used to identify as such, and someone who helps a great many different types of people around the world with spirituality and mindfulness and mental health aspects, I have personally found that sometimes we're identifying as having gift giving as our love language, when really we're playing out part of our own inner wounding or inner child wounding. I know that for me, I participated in having gift giving as a part of my love language when I was really honestly validation seeking underneath. And I had something in me because of how I grew up and the people that I grew up around that said love needed to be proved in material ways. And I found it quite intriguing, and I really loved the process of trying to provide the perfect gift for someone, or to be thoughtful to the point of, figuring out someone's needs before they even voiced them for me. And as I grew in my gifts and abilities and spirituality and mental health and mindfulness and all these things that I love, I realized so much of that came from me growing up around people who I had to anticipate their needs, or I had to caretake their needs before they voiced them. This is what happens a lot of times to people who grow up as empaths. We develop this belief system around the way that we grow up that says that it's our job, or that we're being good when we can anticipate or know the needs of others before they even voice them. But when we grow and when we start to heal and realize that that's not being an empath or being gifted, that's really being codependent and being conditional in terms of love, or taking advantage, in my opinion, of someone who has abilities by just assuming that they should constantly use them to understand other people's needs before other people voice them. What we're doing is being unfair to ourselves as the quote unquote empath or gifted person, because we're putting that responsibility on us. And simultaneously, we're being unfair to the other people, even though they may grow to like it because they have to do less work. We're being disrespectful, in my opinion and view, of them and of their soul sovereignty and of their need for soul growth, to be able to voice their opinions and ask for what they want or need, whether the answer is yes or no. So I know this is quite off topic in some people's view in terms of gift giving and receiving, but I wanted to put it right up here at the front of our channeling session today, because I know that personally I struggled with going through times in my life where I couldn't provide gifts for people, or I would overextend myself in buying gifts for people or wanting to buy gifts for people and feeling quite bad about myself if I couldn't get them the perfect thing, if I couldn't get them the most thoughtful thing, if I couldn't get them anything. And so much of that, came down to my own personal wounding and healing that needed to be done. Now, I still, of course, enjoy doing nice things for people and gift giving when I can, but I don't have that pressure on myself anymore, which so much of it stemmed from these inner wounds for me. And I've found that with other people and my clients as well, that, the way that we gift give and also the way that receive stems a lot from the belief systems that we grow up with and the way that we give and receive in childhood, not only with physical gifts and things like holidays, but in terms of anything. It has a lot to do with the expectations that we have upon ourselves growing up, and also how our parents make us feel about being provided for or providing things. So if we grew up, for example, as I did in a household which was either single family or mixed caretakers that are not always parents or lower income, we could feel that pressure to not ask for the things that we want or need because it would be quote unquote too much for the family. Or we could feel guilty asking for or even receiving the things that we actually want or need because of thinking about that economic status. So all of these things can come into play in terms of how we give and receive. And I also want to, put a note here. It is not, in my opinion, important to give and receive during the holidays. Now, I know that would probably be an unpopular opinion, but this is something that life has taught me kind of over and over again in terms of making sure that I was doing the work on my soul and in my understanding of all of these things and about myself, really, and about how so many other people grow up and develop their giving and receiving mechanisms by making sure that I didn't have the funds to, give the way that I thought I wanted to or the way I thought I was supposed to. And when life puts you through those moments, which some of you may be in those moments now where you don't have or feel that you have the economic status to give in the way that you want to or think you should or the way you think others expect, that is an opportunity, in my experience and opinion, to step back and say, is this actually important? Is this actually a signifier of my level of caring or of my relationship with this person or with these people? Or can I use or develop other skills in terms of communication to let them know, not only during the holidays, but at all points of the year or as many parts of the year as possible, that I do care about them and I do respect them and I do appreciate them and I do want to do nice things for them when and in the ways in which I can. Because energetically, if we are overextending ourselves during the holiday season or any time of year in order to give something to someone else, there can be a lashback for that energetically in, the way that I've seen how energy works. So that lashback can come in the form of resentment when we're then not able to provide something else for ourselves or someone else that may be needed. And resentment kills relationships because it's unspoken. And so often we enter into these unspoken agreements that says that we have to get gifts during the holidays or for everyone we care about. And then what ends up happening is people get kind of throwaway gifts just to say that it's the thought that counts, or you overextend to try to force yourself to get the perfect gift or get the thing they asked for, instead of developing the communication to say, I'm so sorry, but that's just not in my budget right now, or I can't get you that right now, but how about we figure out something else instead? And that is where we can come back around to the gift giving and receiving portion as well, in terms of what are those conversations or what could those conversations look like? Because again, in my experience and opinion, when life puts you through these moments where it is difficult monetarily to provide something that you want to get for someone else or even for yourself, it is an opportunity to say, what am I supposed to be or what could I be developing about my personality or my overall healing right now, rather than hyperfixating on being able to provide this perfect gift. And when you do that work, sometimes the opportunity will open up to then have the funds to get the gift, or you will have learned the lesson that says, maybe it's just not appropriate for me to get that for myself or someone else right now, because it would be a sacrifice that would maybe bring about resentment, or because it would be a hardship or a struggle or bring about a problem for me later on. Specifically thinking about times when we put things on credit and then are not entirely sure how we would pay for them. And a lot of people get themselves into these situations during the holidays, or specifically also when things appear to be on sale. And remember, when something appears to be on sale and we have this urgency to get it, we get that urgency because part of us is saying, I don't believe that I'll ever be able to afford this without the sale, so I better grab it and snatch it up now. And we know, when we can stop and think about it, that that's really a limited mindset, and that is a lack mindset. And so if you can realize that during that urgency, then sometimes we can step back and say, you know what, I don't need this right now. Or if the only way I can afford it is with the sale, maybe it's not the appropriate thing for me to have, or maybe I need to do something first so that I can build up my funds in order to pay for it more comfortably. So those are all mindset things that have helped me in terms of not only gift giving and receiving, but buying in general, even buying for myself or, for my household needs. Those are reminders that can come up and be helpful as we're spending money or looking to make money. But in terms of gift giving and making sure that that's not going to be a point of contention in our relationships, that's really where I find the opportunity to develop things like conversation, and address those unspoken agreements. Do you have unspoken agreements in your family or in your friendship groups or in your work colleague groups, whatever it is for you, that says that you have to give gifts or even cards during the holidays? The first thing to remember is that the holidays are not happy for everyone. There are, and I can say this as a person who has been working as a spirit medium for a large part of my career as well, until I got more into the energy healing and quantum reading aspects. There are a large number of deaths that happen during the holidays. I know that we don't generally like to think about that, but death around the holidays is very, very common. Physically, it's very stressful. There are a lot of statistics that say there are a lot of heart conditions that, act up or take people out or risk people's health during the holiday season. So please take care of your hearts in more ways than one. But I also know that it is a generational thing and a generational trauma thing that a lot of people's family members, for whatever reason their soul did, choose to pass away during the holidays. I know that in my family in particular, I've had a lot of, especially the older relatives, who chose to go on Christmas. I know my clients have had mixes of Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's. So it's not always a happy time for people. And also the holidays can be the biggest reminder of who we've lost throughout the year or throughout the years that are not with us during that time that we're used to spending with them. So if that's you, and if you struggle with grief during the holidays, or if you know people that struggle with grief during the holidays, please bear that in mind in the way that you have these conversations with people, and the way that you can address unspoken or unconscious agreements about celebrating or gift giving and receiving, so that we're not adding more pressure to ourselves or others during this time. You may also find it helpful, the chat and channel session that I did about grief during the holidays especially, which addresses so much of this. So you can click the link in the description to go to the full chat and channel sessions playlist and listen in on that one. I'm sure that some of you will find that particularly helpful. But going forward, it can also be helpful, as I said, to start to address these agreements. So what does that look like? It looks like saying, if it's a pattern or a quote unquote tradition to gift give to everybody in the family, and that's become something that's stressful or hard on your family, or you've had a difficult or very different year and it just doesn't feel resonant for you anymore, whether that's because you don't have the funds or because it just doesn't feel right to you anymore, right? Sometimes we attract these situations or allow these situations in our life where we physically do not have the funds and therefore do not have a choice, but we can also become unresonant with the practice or tradition of gift giving. And if we want, we can become so self-aware that we no longer have to attract the situations of not having it available, which is a reminder that I still need sometimes as well, because when we are committed to doing that work and to being able to use our voice and say, it's just not for me to participate in that right now, for whatever your reasons are. You do not have to explain to someone, by the way, that you don't have the funds unless you feel called to do that. When we can use our voice to say no, then we don't have to attract those situations where the universe or our lives kind of force us to say no. So using no is very powerful, and it doesn't have to be a rejection of the person or the relationship, as long as you can come to the place where you can have the conversations with people that says, I don't feel like participating this year in gift giving. I hope that's okay. However, I would like to do this instead if you're open to that. So the insteads could look like giving them something that you have personally and that you think they will like, and being open and honest and letting them know, I have this, I'm not really using it, or I would love for you to have it. Can I extend that to you as my gift this year? Or it can look like asking for time with them, or having a conversation, or inviting them to your home, or for a meal, or making them something, whether that's, physically or digitally. Something that you put your time and energy into can and often is much more valuable than something that is purchased. And if you have a relationship with this person that's based on love, chances are they'll probably appreciate more something that you put love into. And the holidays, with how commercialized they've become, in my experience, have become less about love if we are just trying to check people off the list to let them know that we care through physical means. And checking people off the list and needing to get them something to make sure that we know or they know that we care is very much rooted in the inner child wounds that we were talking about earlier. So if you can, be willing to be mindful and aware and using the opportunity to go into your healing, and also recognize the fact that people are allowed to have their feelings hurt. And I know that it's scary, especially if you're an empath, which if you're here, you probably are, to think about the fact that sometimes we may be hurting others' feelings. But if you have a relationship with them that you want to continue, I would hope that you would be able to go about the process of having that conversation, or trusting them to have the conversation with you, and let them know that you can acknowledge their feelings without taking responsibility for them or going back into codependency and needing to placate their feelings by doing something that doesn't feel right for you to do at this time, such as gift giving. And I know that we really haven't spoken about receiving, but having difficulty receiving or receiving without guilt is also a large part of this, and a large part of our own healing and wounding, in my experience. A lot of times, if you grow up being the giver, or being the one who is almost required to do the giving or not receive enough, right? So if you grew up with limited means and you always had to kind of stuff your needs and wants down to make sure that you were taking in for the big picture and being respectful of the fact that the family may not have everything that it needs, and so you anticipated that and became adaptive to lessen your own needs, chances are receiving may be difficult for you. I know that it's been difficult for me in my life. Even asking for what you want and need from things like the universe itself can feel difficult, because our bodies, our nervous systems, in addition to our mindsets, which are overlays for our soul, are all kind of programmed to ask for, anticipate, or allow ourselves less, because then if we were programmed that way, it would hurt less when we didn't or couldn't receive everything that we needed in childhood. And then we allowed that pattern to continue into adulthood. Most of us became very, very comfortable giving, and sometimes only derive our happiness from that process of giving to others, or from almost putting ourselves in that savior or that hero role of providing for others and not always providing for ourselves, which is also a martyr role. So receiving and the healing of receiving is also in large part about the healing of our own divine feminine essence or aspects. Now, if you are a male or a female, that doesn't really matter, because we all have divine masculine and divine feminine in us, in my opinion and experience. But the receiver side is that feminine side. A lot of times it is encompassed in the left hand side of a person's body as well. So people who have difficulty receiving for whatever reasons that they do can often manifest physical illnesses, ailments, or weaknesses within the left side of their body as well. And knowing this process, understanding this, and going about the process of healing your own inner receiver can make you a better giver as well, because it makes you a more balanced giver, and it means more energetically to the universe. You're not going around creating a whole bunch of imbalance, which can lead to the momentum of karma. We need to be able to come to the place within our mindfulness, within our authenticity, within our integrity, in my experience, where we can voice our truth, our needs, our wants, without feeling guilty for them, and also respect others in doing so, even if we don't agree with them, right? So someone is perfectly allowed to voice a need or a want to us, and we can also let ourselves off the hook that a lot of us put ourselves on, or allowed our parents or caretakers to put us on in childhood. And we can say, you can ask for that. You can ask for whatever you want. And I can also recognize that it may not be my role to provide it for you. And that's okay. I can cheerlead you on in getting it in another way, maybe. Or I can just let you know that's not something that it's for me to provide right now. But I think it's great that you want that, and I'm going to support you in wanting it. And even doing that can help us be a better receiver, because we're not blocking our receiverness with this need or urgency that tells us that we have to give, that we're supposed to give. And we need to start lifting that layer or that veil that says it's all about giving, in my opinion. Because if you never let it come back to you, or if you feel very guilty when it comes back to you, or if you feel obligated to give something as soon as you receive something, it's all teaching you about you. And if you don't allow yourselves to replenish or to receive in kind for what you give, or how you've already given to others or the universe, there's going to be something that takes that place, whether that be sickness, ailment, resentment. If we give and never replenish or receive, or never voice that we also need to receive, and allow that receive to come either from the person or the group of people or the universe itself, right? We need to be able to see that sometimes, even if we voice something and, allow ourselves to try to receive it, we may not always receive it from the source that we think we're going to receive it from, or that we require ourselves to be needing it from. We can open up beyond that and say, well, if that person can't or doesn't provide it for me, even if they've told me that they're giving it to me, I can make myself okay with that, to the point where if it is actually a need or a deep desire, want for me, I can allow the universe to send me another opportunity to receive that as well. That can be so helpful, and is something that, to be honest with you, I'm still working on as well, because when you go through things as a child where you didn't have your needs fulfilled, it is a very deep pattern to reset within your psyche and your expectations. And sometimes we can tend to latch on to needing to receive something in a specific way, because that's all we can see at the moment. We may be hyper fixated, and then we can actually block blessings or block the receive of that thing, whether it is a want, like a gift, or an actual need. And so when we can open up that field a little bit more, then the universe can deliver to us in other forms. But it's more difficult for the universe to do that if we're hyperfixated, or if we're expecting or demanding it to come from a specific source. So that's something to know as a receiver as well. And it's also important to remember that because you've given something, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to receive back from that person. And that's something that you need to decide. Is it important to you to receive back from that person or that group or that circumstance, whatever it is for you? Or, can you allow yourself to receive it or make accommodations for it in another way? Because sometimes it does mean something for us to receive from someone so that we understand that they respect our need to receive as we have given. And sometimes relationships do depend on that. Whether that's a should, whether they should depend on that, that's going to be up to people's opinion. But we need to be honest with ourselves and ask that question. Do I need to receive from this person? And do I need to receive in the way or the thing specifically that I've requested? Or can I also open up to say, or I can receive something else from them in the ways that they're able to give at that time. So in other words, if this is something like a couple, both people in the couple may not be on the same financial spectrum and may not be able to give the same level as the other, financially speaking, but they can reach that level by giving through other means or other ways, or devoting their time or energy or creativity in other ways. And you need to know what type of person you are and what type of person they are to see whether you're okay with that and whether you can see it as an equal and balanced exchange. Because in my view, having as balanced of a life and relationships as possible becomes more and more important the more committed you are to your healing, your self-awareness, your mindfulness. And to those who believe in multiple lives and or karma, it becomes important to make sure that you're not creating more karma, and you create less karma by actually being balanced in life. And that's where we can go into the whole other topic of, clearing karma and rebalancing and bringing those things up to check and bringing those things up to speed. All of that happens in relationships too. But that's why it's helpful to be aware of all of these things. And gifting and giving and receiving all come into play. They're all just tools that the universe is using us in the field of experience to teach us about ourselves and about the other person, and to constantly ask us, what is important and why is it important to you? And the holidays can be a time of extreme lesson learning because it becomes a time of should or supposed to, right? Those things are implied by the culture in most cultures throughout the world now because of commercialization and because of the ways that our holidays and traditions have changed and shifted throughout the years, kind of even starting with things like Saturnalia back in the day. So it's a time where we have that pressure on. It is often dark if you're in the northern hemisphere at least, and it is that time where it is darker earlier in the day, and periods of darkness are about introspection, or are supposed to be for the large part about introspection. And people feel pressure because it's often the last months or weeks of what we see as the calendar year, and people like to do things like tie up karma or stick a pin or put a bow in their year and know where they stand in their life and health and finances and relationships before they enter a new calendar year. And we don't often think about it this deeply, but gift giving and receiving can be a large part of that. Now, I don't participate in gift giving personally the way that I did in years past. And of course, I don't participate in it the ways that I did when I was doing so from my wounding. So I hope that some of these stories and examples and, mindfulness cues can be helpful to you to develop your own style and relationship with gift giving and receiving, and recognize those cues from the universe or those triggers from the universe in the ways that they show up with you or your loved ones, and hopefully have different conversations. Things don't have to cost a lot of money, whether you have a lot of money or not, to mean something or let people know that you care. that idea is a belief system that comes from the culture, the same way the belief system that says that we can feel guilty about giving or receiving comes from the culture of our families or from our upbringing. And the more that you dive into your spiritual awareness and your mental health, the more that you can start to unplug from the programming of those things and decide your own path, and hopefully have enough types of people in your life who are committed to understanding and respecting you and for your journey, however it is, to know that yeah, you may celebrate holidays differently, and you're going to figure out different ways to celebrate in ways that feel good and honorable to you and less stressful or less overcommitting or, less resentment building. You can decide if you want to be the type of person that sends cards or not. A lot of newer generations were entirely dependent on text communication. And so doing traditions like sending cards to let people know we're thinking of them are kind of falling to the wayside. But each person needs to decide that for themselves if that's something they still want to participate in. And also know that when you give something, you don't always, as we said, have to receive, or shouldn't, in my opinion, expect to receive back, because you never know what circumstance someone is going through. And when you receive something, hopefully you can also take this inspiration to go about the process of not feeling guilty or obligated to give something back in return, or overextend yourself in that way. And hopefully we can, as I said, come to these points where we don't need it to be that we can't or choose not to give something in return because it would be an overextension, and can actually use that point to evaluate whether we actually want to or feel appropriate in giving something back, and knowing that we don't necessarily always have to give at the same level that we receive in terms of monetarily, and can find another way to do that if we need or want or so choose. As I said, doing things like spending time with someone, or just having conversations that you care, letting them know that, hey, I'm not really comfortable with gifting during the holidays, but I do nice things, and I so appreciate that we do nice things for each other throughout the year when we're thinking of one another, and I would like to spend time with you, and I just wanted to let you know that I'm thinking of you during the holidays. That can mean a lot to people, and I think it means more to have those types of people in your life that you can be honest with in that way, and who can receive that message and really appreciate it. And hopefully, if there are hurt feelings underneath on either side from going about that way of being, you guys can have a conversation about that. And if you're wondering whether there are hurt feelings, you can have a conversation about that too, and say, hey, are you okay with the fact that gift giving really isn't my thing, or isn't my thing this year? And tell them that they can be honest with you, and use it as a way to develop your relationship more and become more of a safe space for all of each other's feelings and all of each other's opinions about one another. So I hope that that has inspired you today in terms of gift giving and receiving, hopefully taken the pressure off some of you who were not sure how to give or receive in a healthy way for you this year. I am thinking of you and hoping that you have great holidays, however that looks and means something to you, whether those are the holidays that we have here towards the ends of the calendar year, or whether you're listening during other points of giving or holidays in your personal life or family. I am thankful for this time that we have spent together, and for you utilizing your energy to be here and listen in on these insights today. If you liked it and resonated with it and enjoyed it, please remember to give a like to let the algorithm know that you liked it and that others might like it as well. Share it if you feel so called. Maybe use the opportunity to share a link to this channeling on some of your pages and and leave some of your own thoughts to let people know universally how you may be reassessing giving and receiving for you this year or going forward in life. I would love to see more of you do that. If you would like to and feel called to work with me, you can find links in the description for my website, Damsel Designs, DAMCL Designs.com, where you can find things like quantum sessions, Akashic Records readings. These things are also available as gift certificates or session certificates, although, as I said, no pressure to be giving or receiving this or any time of year. Just if you are called to do that, I personally find that giving the gift of energy and experience and things that can keep on giving tend to mean more and help people more than little trinkets or something that we can get otherwise. And whether that is a session or a session certificate with me, or whether that is another type of energy or experience that you feel called to give someone, I hope that you take the encouragement to do that if you are looking to participate in gift giving, because there are wonderful things like experience. A lot of people take trips during the holidays, but it can be a staycation or going to a place in nature or, making something that is an experience. So I hope that we'll start to give more things and receive more things like that for one another. And I'm really, really honored for those of you who have participated in giving the experience of my sessions to people during the holidays. And I love seeing how it lights them up and skyrockets them into the next phase of their life. So thank you so much to my clients and those who have been participating in that session certificates option. There is a link for that in the description and on my website as well. For any of you who have really been geeking out with me about the inner child and the validation and the wounding and all of that stuff, and would like to explore what healing that looks like for you, there is also a contact form in the description to contact me about customized quantum, Sikhem, and shamanic energy healing and or life and consciousness coaching containers and packages. On my website, I do list sessions which are available for everyone, but the healing packages and energy healing I do on a custom basis. I want to talk with you first and build a custom container for your soul. Make sure we are a good fit to help you deep dive and rise. So if you are interested in going beyond session work into the healing aspect, which I am so passionate about in my career and in my life, you can use that contact for consult form and we can set up a time to talk and see what setting one of those up looks like for you. I really thank you for being here today. I would love it if you stick around and became a follower or a subscriber. You will find my other socials linked in the description as well. And there is a chat and channel sessions playlist to tune into the other timeless chat and channel sessions for topics that may call to you. I hope to see you next time. If you have found that this or any of my other free and public works were helpful to you and you would like to be supportive in keeping the channel and free and public works such as this going strong, you can also leave energy exchange or appreciation donations. Absolutely all amounts are appreciated through paypal.me/Dee'sEnlightenedEdits or through the donate links in the description below for any of you who would like to leave an exchange for this or other channeling sessions or support future ones that will be coming forward. With that, I will close the session here. By the way, donation is not a requirement. Please only give if you are called and drawn and able to do so without overextending. But I'm really glad that you are here today and that we've gotten to cover all of this and look forward to the ways that it enlightens you, your life, and those around you. I will see you next time. Be blessed with love, light, and light codes. Love, Danielle. #Damsel at Dee's Enlightened Edits of DamselDesigns.com.